Hi, it's Mimi at Giggly Guppy. Today we're going to be reading three more stories from this book, Unlikely Friendships by Jennifer S. Holland. And as you can see, Mittens is very comfortably snoozing at the top of his cat tree. And I'm having a challenge removing the glare from my glasses. If you have any ideas of how I can minimize that, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. But in the meantime, let's get started. I love the three stories we're reading today. The first one is called The Papillon and the Squirrel. And the Papillon is that fluffy dog. And the puppies too. And there's the little tiny squirrel. Oh my gosh. All right. This took place in Washington in the United States in 2005. Finnegan fell. It was a 40-foot tumble from his family nest high in the tree, yet somehow the tiny squirrel survived the landing. His future, which looked pretty bleak on the way down, turned brighter when a woman found him squealing at the base of the trunk. She took him to an animal-loving friend for a little TLC. That friend was Debbie Cantlon, a woman who was constantly caring for wildlife in need, injured raccoons, abandoned kittens, any creature down on his luck. She took the tiny smudge of an animal in, gave him a name, warmed him up, and bottle fed him, then tucked him into a bed of heated blankets on the floor of her dog's unused kennel. That sounds very cozy. Her Papillon, Mademoiselle Giselle, meanwhile, was round with pups. And perhaps because of her impending motherhood, the dog was oddly drawn to the unfamiliar squirming creature her owner had brought home. I went on an errand, Debbie recalls, and when I got back, the kennel was empty. Turns out Maddie, as Debbie calls her, had pulled the swaddled squirrel through the dining room, down the hall, into the bedroom, and parked it next to her own bed. There, she was there, guarding that squirrel like it was her own. Once Maddie gave birth, Debbie expected the dog's fascination with the squirrel to fade. Instead, her motherly need to be near the animal got stronger. She went looking for the squirrel just a day after her own pups were born. When Debbie gave in and moved Finnegan into Maddie's bed with the puppies, Maddie started just licking his little head. She was beaming, and if she felt whole now that all her babies were together. I think that a mother is always a mother. Those nurturing instincts are there, even if the little one isn't your own. As the puppies grew bigger and stronger than Finnegan, Debbie began putting the squirrel outside so he could learn about the wildlife she hoped he'd return to. Maddie would watch and wait for the squirrel to come back to the fold. I have to show you this picture. It's the puppies and the little baby squirrel. Oh my gosh. That's so cozy and comfortable. Just around dusk, Finnegan would return to the house, scratch at the door, then nosedive into the pack and roll around with the dogs. It was like he was telling them all about his adventures of the day, Debbie recalls. Eventually, Finnegan returned to being a wild squirrel full time. When he stopped coming back, I was sad for me and for Maddie, Debbie says, but our job was done. Indeed. One more picture of the good work they did to help little Finnegan. The next story took place in Antarctica in 2005, and it's called The Photographer and the Leopard Seal. The leopard seal looks enormous and smiling, but also a tiny bit menacing. All right. There is a saying that loving an animal awakens the human spirit. For Canadian photographer Paul Nicklin, just a brief encounter with one wild beast not only roused his soul, but set it dancing. While on assignment for National Geographic magazine, Paul suited up in dive gear and entered the cold blue world of the leopard seal to document these magnificent and sometimes fierce marine mammals beneath the Antarctic Sea. His goal was simple: shoot as many photos as possible without being attacked by the 1,000-pound territorial beasts, any one of which could easily kill him. Historical writings by Antarctic explorers include a mention of these massive seals threatening men, sometimes following their movements along ice floors, even trying to grab them. And in 2003, a leopard seal that may have been starving attacked a scientist and drowned her. The animal's ill repute makes Paul's experience that much more astounding. A 12-foot female leopard seal not only took a liking to the interloper, but made efforts to nourish him. She began the encounter by flashing Paul her wide-open jaws, a threat display that let him know his place without harming him. Then, her dominance established, the seal's mood seemed to swing in Paul's favor. She hovered near him in the water, swimming within arm's reach, as if posing for the camera. In a most astonishing move, the seal hunted down and killed a penguin, its own prey, then offered it to Paul repeatedly as if trying to feed one of her own young. It seemed that she was worried about my health. I was clearly too slow a predator to take care of myself, Paul recalls. When the photographer ignored the food offering, always wary of interacting with any wild animal more than necessary, she brought me live penguins and would place them on my camera dome, then retrieve them for me when they escaped, blowing bubbles in my face as if exasperated by my passive nature. Finally, she ate penguins in front of Paul, showing me how it's done. Her sleek beauty amazed Paul. The deadly power turned tender took his breath away. My heart was pounding and I was elated every time she approached. It was the most remarkable interaction I've ever had, he says. Over the course of several days, this wild creature that dwarfed him in size and strength became a human photographer's greatest companion. At the end of the shoot, it was hard to leave her behind, he says. I'd experienced something unique and magical that I'd never forget. And there's another great picture of the two. Okay, now I liked all the stories, but this is my favorite of the day. Oh, and I can see Mr. Mittens is grooming himself. Oh my gosh, my resident cutie pie. All right, this last story for the day took place in Texas in the United States in 2009, and it is called The Pitbull, the Siamese Cat, and the Chicks. Oh, look at that Pitbull smiling. Oh, such a beautiful smile. Excuse me. Chicks dig Sharky. The tiny cotton puffs perch on his back, peck at his snout, and use him as a raft in the pool. They are also strangely fond of a Siamese snowshoe cat called Max, who noses them into line. And Max and Sharky, well, since the cat put the dog in his place with a paw slap or two, they've gotten along better than fine. Just picture that. Oh my gosh. To Helen Jurlo, an Estonian who moved to Texas, it's a crazy circus of personalities, just the way she likes it. She grew up on a farm raising pigs and cows, gathering eggs still warm from the hen. So when she moved to the States with her American husband, Helen was soon bringing animals back to the house, starting with a pot-bellied pig. It made me feel at home, she says, and as the zoo grew, the relationships among the animals took wonderful turns. I'm going to show you another picture. There are 3 pictures for this story. Another smile. Happy dog smile. Sharky drove into fatherhood before he was a year old and was like an excited big brother to his pups. He couldn't wait to see them, even more than the female, says Helen. If I'd ask, "Where are your babies?" his eyes would sparkle and he'd run off to look for them. He's just in heaven when he's surrounded by all his babies. Those babies came to include Siamese cat Max and the batches of chicks that Helen gets each spring. When he sees those chicks, his eyes grow huge and he wants to play, she says. He doesn't discriminate between furred and feathered. I think he just wants to protect anything that's small and helpless. Guinea pigs, rabbits, chicks, the pig. He just won't leave them alone. Everyone gets kisses. Now Helen photographs and videotapes the animals to share their bizarre friendships with the world. Some favorite scenes caught on film could be subtitled this way. Chicks line up atop dog. Chicks slide down seated dog's back. Dog, cat, and chicks cuddle together. Chicks ride cat. Cat nuzzles chicks. Dog and cat nap. Dog and chicks play in the pool. Cat slaps dog playfully, while riding by on automatic vacuum cleaner. No doubt Helen's is the only house on the block in the world boasting such antics among its pets. The animals don't seem to mind being stalked by paparazzi. They just do their thing regardless of the audience. But the clearest bond is the one ever growing between dog and cat. They make me laugh so much, says Helen. Sometimes Sharky and Max sit in exactly the same position, one paw stretched out straight and the other crunched inward, like they're mocking each other. And other times, she says, they sprawl out back to back by the pool, 2 friends just looking at the sky. And this last picture is a big picture. Everyone's so happy and comfortable. So those are our 3 stories for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again to read more animal stories to make you smile.